All right, guys, we're recording for our manual focus or macro photography project. So in the classwork section, I got all the instructions in the Google Classroom instructions when you click on manual focus macro photography. For this project, you're going to be taking 9 total pictures of either macro subjects or surfaces. The key thing with this one is you're testing out, if you're using a camera, manual focus, so the MF option on your lens. And then depending on what lens you're using, if you're using like a kit lens, you have it zoomed to 55, or if you have a macro lens, you might want to zoom out further to let you focus even closer, depending on what lenses you might have. I have options for shooting with a smartphone. I'll show you guys a couple of shooting modes with TV, which is shutter priority, or AV, which is your aperture priority. And then the key thing, what I'm looking for is make sure the most important part of the subject is in focus. So depending on your subject, depending on what you shoot, you're gonna need to kind of determine, okay, what's the most important part and what should I be focusing on? So an example of that is if I was doing a macro shot of an eye, the kind of main part of the eye I'd want to focus on would be the colored part, which would be the iris, and not focusing on like the eyelashes in the front, right? So I take my time really trying to focus, get that main part of my subject in focus and sharp. What I'll be grading on is for focus precision. So I recommend to take extra photos when you're shooting, and then download them to your computer or check on the back of your screen or on your smartphone and go through and really analyze which one has the main part of the subject sharpest and in focus. And so I do recommend shoot extras. Like once you have like an object you want to shoot, shoot extra photos and then analyze those photos and see which ones has the main part, like this would be the logo, sharpest and in focus. I do want you guys to edit 4 of your photos, and so I'm going to be doing a demo later on how to bring out the sharpness and detail of a specific area. So not just applying it to the whole photo, but how it can get like one area to stand out and be nice and sharp and crisp. So you have 13 images total, 9 that you take photos of, and then 4 that you edit. So 9 plus 4 is 13. And then you're going to upload that into Google Slide or Doc, call it my manual focus / macro. Shooting days, again, will be Wednesday, today through Monday. So you do have a weekend to shoot this, which is good if you want to shoot stuff over the weekend. Next week, we'll get into presenting these. So on Tuesday, we'll have a presentation day, Wednesday, and then Thursday, so March 2nd through the 4th. This assignment is worth 60 points, 40 points for the quality of your photos and edits, and then 20 points for just talking about how you made your photos, right? So 20 points for the presentation. I will give an option. I know some people just like the idea of presenting or sharing their photos freaks them out. So you can choose not to present, but I will dock your grade 10% if you don't present. So just keep that in mind. I'm trying to get you to at least talk once and present your photos and just share that whole experience. So then we can learn from each other's experiences in this class. But if you think that's too much, that's fine. I'll just dock your grade 10%. Modifications for distance learning. If shooting with a smartphone, make sure your lens is clean and clear. So what I mean by that is when you're shooting with a smartphone and with your normal lens, always look at the actual lens because that's the thing that's taking the photo, right? And so if it's smudged or dirty or got dust or film like hazy stuff on it, your photos are not going to come out as good. So some of the photos I see, there's like it's just kind of cloudy looking or hazy and fuzzy looking. You can't really see the sharpness well. So just go look at your lenses, make sure they're clean. Get like a little cloth, wipe them off so they're super clean. So that way you get the sharpest photo possible. Same with your camera lens. Get a microfiber cloth, wipe it off before you get shooting. So that way it's the cleanest shot you can get. And then pay attention to how close you can get before it goes out of focus. So you'll notice on a smartphone or on a camera, there is something called a minimum focal distance or minimal focus distance. And basically what that means is you can only get so close with the lens where it can focus, but then if you get too close, it'll stop focusing, right? And then you have to kind of back it up. So just kind of pay attention. What I would kind of do today is whatever you're shooting, taking pictures with for this, test out your minimum focal distance. And so you'll, if I was shooting on a smartphone, if I had a smartphone with a zoom lens, so like, this has the 2x lens, the 1 and the 0.5 on my 11 Pro. So the 2x1 would be the one I would want to shoot with. The 2x lets you focus closer than the regular lens, the 1 lens. So I would use the 2x lens. It'll let you focus closer on your subject than the 1x lens. And then just test it out. And so what you can do to test it out is on a smartphone. There we go. I'll try to hold this. There we go. So if I press and hold, you'll see that box go like chunk, chunk, and then you'll see it says AEAF lock on the top. And what that means is I locked my autofocus, and then I locked my exposure. So then if I move in and out, we can start seeing how my exposure goes in and out. So what I do is get as close as possible, press and hold, and then see how close you can get to focus. The cool thing about the EAF lock is you can swipe up and down to adjust the exposure, right? You can see I'm adjusting exposure here. So that's kind of the benefit. It gives you more control of your focus. So typically if I was shooting a subject, I would get as close as I can, press and lock the focus. So hold it down and you see that box pop up. And then I'll just kind of move my camera back and forth as I take photos, multiple photos. And then I'll just review my photos and see which one is the sharpest, or I got like my logo sharpest and in focus. Especially with macro, you need to kind of shoot extras. For a camera, sorry, any questions before I get going? Okay. So if I was using a camera, what I would recommend for my camera settings for this one is on the side of the camera where it says AF and MF. I would switch that to MF. So I'm just going to push this little dial, switch it to MF for manual focus. AF is for autofocus. And so then what I recommended doing, if I was shooting, I was new to using a camera, I would go to the top dial, and then I would switch that. Let's hold it this way. There we go. I'm going to switch it to the close-up mode. So depending on your camera, sometimes it has like a little flower, or it'll say close-up, right, or macro mode. Basically, I'm just helping the camera understand, like, I'm still wanting you to figure out my exposure, but I'm going to be shooting something closer. And so it kind of tells the camera, okay, I need to start focusing on closer subjects and maybe get a brighter exposure to help out with that subject. So something to think about when you're shooting. If I wanted more control, as I showed in the instructions, I could switch it to a more manual mode. So that'll be TV, which is my shutter priority. And what the, sorry, no worries, Thomas, just so you know I am recording this little demo. For shutter priority, you'll see it highlights the shutter speed here. And using that top dial, I can change my shutter speed. So the faster I go, like 1/1600th, it'll really open and close quick so I can freeze fast motion. The slower the shutter lets in more light because it's open longer, so I can get brighter exposures in darker environments, but it can cause some motion blur, right? If I shoot at like 1/50th handheld and I shake my camera, it's going to kind of show motion blur. So you can really kind of control that. The other option is the AV mode, which is my aperture priority, and that lets me control the aperture. And so when I go to the screen, you'll see that F number, and the aperture lets me control my depth of field. So do I want a little bit in focus or everything in focus, like front to back? So the lower the number I go, again, I'm using the dial. So I'm going to go down. The lowest I can go is 3.5 on this camera lens, and then the highest I can go is f/22. So if I go down to 3.5, a little bit will be in focus if I'm kind of zoomed in. And then if I go wide angle and zoom out and go to f/22, everything will be in focus front to back. And so it lets me kind of control the depth of the field. So if I was new, just kind of put it in a close-up mode. The Canons have, this looks like a little flower, and it'll say close-up on the back. And I'm just kind of helping on my camera understand. And then if I have a lens that has a little zoom, so this one goes from 18, which is wide angle, to 55. You can see the numbers on the lens, 55. Just keep it at 55. If you have a zoom lens, that's further, you can try that out too. You can test it out at 55, or if you have like a 100 to 400 or something, put it at like, 100 and see how close you can focus. Put it at 400 and see how close you can focus. Some have like macro modes, like this lens here. So this is like a longer lens that I can check out. This is a 70 millimeter to 300, and you'll see it has a little macro mode. So I gotta zoom it out to 200 to 300, and then I can switch it to macro, and then it'll tell the camera like, okay, we're focusing on things closer. So it'll kind of change the optics so it can focus on closer things. That lens has it. Some do, some don't. So just let me know if you have questions. That's why I say kind of figure out, test out what you're shooting with today. And then see if you're having any focusing issues, and then I can, make recommendations and help you out. So it really depends on what device you're using at home. All right. So again, I'll be doing a demo later on about how we can edit our photos. That'll probably be either Friday or Monday. It depends on how many people have stuff shot and if they want to see that Friday or Monday. And so for examples, what I wanted to share was some close-up photos from the Close-Up Photographer of the Year from 2020. And so these are a variety of different photos just to kind of show you like what pro photographers are shooting, from macro to super macro, like microscopic photos. And so just kind of showing you what there is out there and kind of getting you guys inspired. And then let me just double check the chat. I think no one else has showed up, right? No Rain, and no Michael. Okay. So this is a photo of an eel larvae, very, very small, baby eel, super tiny. This is a close-up of a little spider at a little pond with some cool like reeds around it. You can see the kind of oily surface is reflecting the colors. Looks kind of cool, but obviously it's not very healthy. So again, look at this photo of this frog, cool kind of under overshot, but the eyes are nice and sharp and in focus, right? So whatever is kind of the main part of your subject, if you're shooting it close, try to get that main part in focus. We got a nice cool composition, cool visual movement and colors with this butterfly like that. These are silhouettes of water scorpions. So they basically put flashlights underneath the surface of the water to light them and backlight them. This is a long exposure of a firefly, and this is the bioluminescent tail as it's moving along. So they took maybe a 10-second exposure as it was crawling up, showing that bioluminescent trail. You could make a cool arrangement. So think of the cool, radial balance happening here with these flowers. So this is a mandala made with miniature tulips. Try to zoom in a little bit. These are types of mold popping open on some sort of kind of textured bark. So this is what I was talking about with, controlling the aperture. The more you zoom and the more you bring the aperture down to like 3.5, this one is probably like 1.4. It's probably a nicer lens. So you get just like a little bit in focus, and the foreground and background will be out of focus. It can get pretty cool. This kind of looks like a canyon or a roadway, but it's actually a lava flow from Kalapana lava field in Hawaii. This one I thought was pretty rad. So that's called the bullet, and basically it's an air bubble that as it was kind of moving and freezing, it got stuck, but kind of like made this cool shapes. Shooting, ice and stuff in different ways can get some cool results. Ice landscape. So these are, thermopane glass window overnight where these ice crystals started kind of growing up. Kind of looks like trees, like a tree landscape. Pretty cool. It's kind of hard to see for you guys, but basically it shows soap bubble iridescent, how it kind of changed as it kind of moves around and starts drying out. So cool subjects for macro or like close-up is, surface textures, right? When you shoot at the surface, pay attention to different textures or maybe little details. And so this is rust, right? When things start oxidizing and, aging, it starts breaking down the chemicals and things will start turning different colors. different textures. This one they thought looks like a mountain and a cloud when it was rusting over. Oil and water, super minimalistic, but pretty cool, clean photo. This is a fly larvae called a glassworm, and you can basically see right through it. It kind of looks like the scary guy, the boogeyman from Nightmare Before Christmas, a little bit, with like the cap thing in the eye, kind of creepy looking. This is recrystallized callus remover gel. They put it under polarized light, and it kind of looks like, you know, a village, but basically recrystallized and get these really cool textures happening and colors. Super microscopic. Green hydra, little cells under a microscope. So sometimes, you know, using a very powerful microscope, you get zoomed in on really tiny cells. You can attach cameras, like high-res cameras, to those. That's what they're doing for these. This tiny little dude is a springtail, little yellow, kind of almost looks like a tick, but really pretty lighting, cool reflection. He was walking on a frozen puddle, and this was taken by a 16-year-old photographer. So he won the young category of the 2020 close-up photographer. Pretty cool little photograph. We got a great crested tit. It's a type of bird. Nice focus on the subject. Butterflies on flowers. Cool selective focus. This was taken by a 14-year-old. Was third place winner in the young category. Was an overexposed image to kind of just really highlight the two butterflies. So they made a really bright exposure. But pretty cool photo by a 14-year-old. This is a close-up of a gecko. Nice underlighting, right? Maybe you got like a lizard or snake or something at home. You can get a flashlight and start moving the light around, do some like creepy underlighting, make a cool macro photo. Again, good job getting the eyes in focus. You'll see that his nose is out of focus, but his eyes are in focus. When you start shooting with zoom and shallow depth of field, you got to be really precise with your focus. Different types of, you know, molds growing in petri dishes, creating different colors. And then we got some festoon butterflies. Nice backlighting, really brings out the texture. Nice sharpened and focused subjects, pretty cool, nice balance. So I thought those were pretty cool. Any questions so far? All right. So a couple tips. I really like, I'll put this in the chat. This guy is from India, and he has like a lot of cool macro tip ideas. He will be using a little clip-on macro clip on a smartphone. You can buy them at like Best Buy. And basically go in front of the lens, you can clip it on, and it'll let your focal distance from like here get closer. It can get even closer details with the macro clip-on. But just kind of showing you some cool ideas to think about of making kind of cool images at home. So I thought these were kind of cool. And so you'll see on his camera, I'll turn on the volume, he's got like a little clip-on attachment on the smartphone. So it can get even closer. And on the right, you'll see what he's focusing on. You see he's just putting a plant in front of his window light. He's got little water drops he put on it that kind of accumulated at the bottom. But, you know, adding little water drops to things look pretty cool for texture. There's the water drops at the bottom. But again, notice how the main part, like the water drop, is sharpened in focus. The rest goes out of focus. This one I thought was kind of cool. He's using, they're holding up a cell phone. So I can see her holding it close to her eye. And then he's taking a bunch of photos. And he's going back and forth, trying to focus on it, and then getting the sharpest one. So you see him take a lot of photos at different focal lengths. So he's shooting multiple photos, right? So then you can see, the reflection on the eye, which is pretty good, and he got that in focus. Pretty good focusing. So it's kind of like a fizzy drink. So think of your like emergency packet sort of thing, or seltzer. So he's going to put a cell phone underneath. That could be also a picture or a magazine or something. And so it's just trying to create different colors as his background. And he's got a lemon in the bubbles. And now I can see him focusing on the right. He's giving, focusing on the cool little bubbles that are coming up and forming. Pretty cool photo. Matchsticks. So he's kind of making little still lifes. Now what he's doing is he's arranging his setup. So he's got like a little thing to hold his phone upright. You can see he's about to take a photo. He's got another match that's going to light this match. He put the match inside a lemon in a container, so it holds it. You can see the match here. And then he's going to basically take shots of it lighting and then burning down. But be careful, obviously, with fire. And then just taking a bunch of photos. But it does look kind of cool as it starts to kind of burn down, and we get this kind of glowing embers and stuff. So he's going to put the glass on a screen. Again, this doesn't have to be a phone. It could be a picture of something or magazine cutout, right? So he's just dropping little drops of oil onto the water. And all he's going to be doing, so he kind of creates a cool background with the cell phone, and then he's going to be focusing on the oil that's kind of floating on the top of the surface. And you get some really cool, circles and shapes happening and bubbles. He's got a big cube of ice that's melting. So he's going to focus on the different, air bubbles inside of it. So you can see him focusing over here. You get these really cool details of bubbles in the ice cube. Just keep in mind, ice melts and, it can drip and make mess. So maybe have a towel around. Chopped veggies. So you got some okra. And now he's misting it with a little spray bottle to add some cool water drop texture. And then he's just shooting extra photos, right? He's taking multiple shots. He's just setting it up and doing lots of photos and making sure he's getting the main part in focus, right? So it's nice and sharp in the front here, right where the seeds are. Good radial balance in this little piece of okra. So maybe you can get your parents to give you some veggies or fruits or berries, And you also, you could put it in some soda water and get the cool bubbles on it as well, because cool textures. This one's okay, just kind of a pen at the end of the notebook and just focusing on the tip of it. Keep in mind, if you're really close, you might start blocking your light. So you can see his light is coming from the side, so he's not blocking it. You could also, increase the light by adding like a lamp or something to the side of it so you're not blocking your light. Drop on a word, so he handwrote a word in ink, and then it kind of lets it dissolve, and kind of the water, kind of makes it kind of dissolve. It looks kind of cool and distorted. So he has tons of tips. Shooting, just creating some bubbles from like, dish soap or laundry detergent, foaming it up, and then taking photos of bubbles, adding water drops onto a pair of glasses, and then getting, there we go, where's the photo? Come on, dude. So we can get the example. There we go. The cool water drops on the glasses. Water drops on the feather, holding it up to a window. So definitely something to check out. I'll put that link in the instructions too and share that out but I put it in the chat as well if you want to check out all of the ideas. But just kind of some good ideas for shooting different stuff at home. You know, all those were kind of indoor setups, which is good. So I thought that was pretty good. And then, let's see, where am I at? Oh, this one was good. So if you don't have a little macro clip-on, you can get closer by using a water drop on the lens. So this photographer is going to show you how to add a water drop to your main camera. I'll kind of speed this up. So he's going to get some water. Using his finger, he's going to get a drop. And he's going to place that drop on the lens.
You see this?
So you can see there's a little water drop on the lens here. And what that does, it acts like a little macro lens where you can focus closer. Just keep in mind, if you start moving your camera around, you got to be kind of gentle.
I'm gonna start recording, volume up and volume down starts recording, and then I'm gonna just get closer.
So he's gonna hold it to his eye, and you'll see it lets you get a lot closer focusing. So you can actually see his iris here, pretty sharp. But it kind of goes in and out real quick, so you got to be kind of quick with it. But it does let you focus quicker. So I thought that was kind of a good home hack where you can basically get a teeny drop, place it on your standard lens, and then be gentle with it. Don't like shake it around or else the drop will fly off, right? But you can be pretty gentle and then start focusing closer with putting just a piece of water on the lens. The lens is waterproof because it's all glass and metal, so just so you know. So just some kind of tips. So again, quick recap. We're going to be doing 9 photos. Again, what I would do today is test out your focal distance on your smartphone or on your camera. See how close you can get before it goes out of focus. And then, then you can kind of figure out, okay, what subjects could I shoot that would be kind of interesting that I can get close up on it, right? Maybe we can show textures or surfaces, or maybe, get something to stand out that might be interesting. So the rest of the week, I'm going to show kind of other examples, and I'll show you some student examples tomorrow so you can see what people did in the fall. But just kind of giving you guys some stuff to think about. So I'm going to stop the recording.